Here's your heads up to this longer podcast. Starts off with a story. It's got lots of stuff about how you can invest in yourself, because so many people don't tell you. And I'm going to go through the hows and the whys and everything about that for you, so you can really get all the richness of life you deserve to be the real you. And then I'll finish off a story and a bit more. Have a listen after this.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hello, how are you? Paul here. Personal Development Unplugged. Trying to break down these complicated things into simple, easy processes. And I want to talk to you, or continue talking to you, or me just talking, basically, about this time to invest in you. And everyone keeps talking about, as we say, this is the time to invest in yourself. This is the time because you've got time. Well, yeah, but we've always got time though. Can't have the excuse we haven't got time, because we've all got the same time in the world. And if one person can do it, we can all do it. But the thing is, where do you bloody start? Where do you start? Because everyone tells you this is the thing to do. And even I sort of did on that last podcast, or that podcast about it's time to invest. But we need that how. How and where. Where do I start? So I wanted to tell you a little story. Is that okay? Just to tell you a little story, like a once upon a time story. You see, I can remember going back quite a few years. I found a book in a bookstore, and it was called The Giant, I think it was Awaken the Giant Within. And I thought, what a brilliant title, by this guy called Tony Robbins. Never really heard about it before, but it looked good, and it seemed to be resonating with the type of things I like doing, and my own personal development. And I read it, and then I read it again, and I thought, this is absolutely awesome. There's things in here that are just really sparking my imagination. But I knew nothing about it before I started. Nothing at all. Nothing about NLP. Nothing about hypnosis. In fact, there's very little about hypnosis in that book. It's all based from or derived from processes of NLP. And I thought, this is awesome. And then I'm with my colleague. I started a new venture with a colleague, and I'm talking to him about this wonderful book I found. And he goes, oh, Tony Robbins. Yeah, he's a great bloke. Yeah, oh, brilliant. I said, what do you know about Tony Robbins then? He goes, well, I've been to one of his courses, and it's like a weekend seminar. He said, that was awesome, Paul. Made me feel so good. I actually bought his 30-day tapes. So what? You've got the whole 30-day tape of his thing. I can't remember what the actual thing was called, but it was like from this Waking the Giant Within. And he said, oh yeah, I'll lend it to you. And they were the days of the old cassette tapes. And I thought, what a wonderful, instead of like listening to podcasts as I do now when you commute and things like that, I would slip in a cassette and do, because it was 30 days and I had enough time, morning and evening, to listen to the whole day and then do some work in the evening. I can remember when we're doing the confidence things, even now, driving to work and slapping my chest and saying, I feel great. I feel great. Oh, and I just, there were just things that just really resonated. So all of a sudden, from not knowing anything about NLP, not knowing anything about Tony Robbins, all of a sudden, I'm going through his 30-day program. And it's talking about how these processes came from and how he started with NLP. And lo and behold, a little bit of synchronicity comes along. There's a 6-week evening class on NLP. Never seen it before in my life. And it was just round the corner from me where I lived. So I went there and didn't know anything about it at all, because these were processes that weren't in that book, but some of the concepts were the same. And I thought, well, because they were obviously the same because they came from NLP. And I'm thinking, this is absolutely magic. I'm enjoying this so much. Didn't know anything about this. But now I've got my interest and I can seem to do some of this stuff. I can get the results. I'm doing something. And I asked the guy who was teaching, I said, can you teach me more? And he goes, oh no, you have to go. He said, I would promote this guy, Wilf. I've told you before about Wilf, bless him with the angels. Wilf Proudfoot, best hypnotist in the world, or very nearly at that time. And so I went with him and learnt this thing, hypnosis. Don't know why. Well, I do know why, but why hypnosis? Because that's what he teaches before you do NLP. But I didn't know anything about hypnosis. And I didn't know anything about it at all. And it was then quite a little bit difficult to understand. And then all of a sudden, I got a bit clunky with it. And then I got pretty good at it. And then I went on to NLP. And I'm thinking I've got quite a bit of this now. But everything was new to me. And it was a little bit like, first of all, I didn't know such things of the real terminology. So, and then all of a sudden it sort of came back. So I half knew a little bit about it. And then I started doing the exercises and the processes, and I was a bit clunky. And then it seemed to just happen. Now, this is the thing. Because you see, that led on to, in some ways, obviously working with clients and things like that, but even this thing called this podcast I'm doing now. There was a time in my life I didn't even know what a podcast was. Not a bloody clue. And then my son said, you might want to listen to this podcast. What's a podcast, Daniel? Well, you have to get this app, and at that time I wasn't that clever on apps either. So he said, well, you've got an iPhone, and I'll set it up for you, and have a listen to this guy. And I start, podcasts, oh, that's good. And then over a couple of years of listening to podcasts, I suddenly decided I haven't got a clue how to do it, but I'd like to do one of my own. And I had a name, the Personal Development Unplugged Podcast, and I had a kind of idea what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't know how. And I started to do it, and if you listen to the first ones, they're really clunky, and they do a good job. The processes and the information, I think, is pretty good there, but the actual running it and organising it, and then over the years, hopefully, we've got better equipment, hopefully a little bit more confident, and hopefully a little bit more skillful in my articulation and the thoughts behind it. And I've done and found other things. I went to a voice coach because I didn't know about voice and projection and things like that, and breathing. I forgot, actually, you have to breathe in between sentences, or sometimes you speed up and then you slow down. And I thought, that's a bit like just hypnosis. And it all just seems to come together, because from clunky or from not knowing to being a sort of knowing that I didn't know, and then clunky, and then hopefully things get better. And then I try to stretch a little bit more. And that's where I'm going to. You see this thing about time to invest in you. Where do I start? Because a lot of the times we just don't know. We don't know where to start and how to start. And that's really where I'm coming to. Everything I've been talking about and everything I did followed the 4 stages of learning. See, the first stage of learning is unconscious incompetence. What a lovely term, isn't it? Unconscious incompetence, which means I just don't know I don't know. I don't know about anything on this particular subject. So I didn't know anything at all about NLP. Didn't even know the term. Didn't even know it existed until I found Tony Robbins. And then, having not known about it, I knew then, or realized, I didn't know about it. So I knew of its existence, but I didn't know anything about it. And that's called conscious incompetence. So it's now come from my unconscious mind of not knowing a bloody thing about anything. And then all of a sudden, I'm consciously aware that I don't know about it. But I know I don't know it. And then as I start to learn these things, so as I started to learn hypnosis, it got a little clunky, but I could do it. I could follow the steps. And that term is then conscious competence. And if you think about that, if you've ever tried consciously to do something, there's only a few times you can actually do it. And one of those times is when you're drunk. If you've ever been drunk or that type of thing, and you try to walk, you find you cannot do it because you cannot consciously control your muscles. They go all over the place. Your legs go everything. See, when you walk and you do things, you're not thinking, are you? And when you're moving your arms, you're not thinking, because that's unconscious competence. So you get that clunky bit, which is conscious competence, and the more you do it, it's a bit like the old example what everyone uses is when you drive a car. You think you're going to drive a car And you're just going to move the steering wheel and press that thing on the floor. But, oh, I've got to change gear. I've got to indicate. I've got to watch people on the road. I've got to look at my speed. Oh, man. And then, so you've gone from conscious incompetence, I don't know how to drive. Now I know I don't know how to drive. Now conscious competence, I can drive, but it's bloody difficult thinking of all this stuff until you get unconsciously competent. And you get in the car and turn the ignition and boom, you drive because you know where you're going. And you actually start thinking about where you're going and not necessarily the driving, because it becomes an unconscious process, doesn't it? And that's what I want you to think about, is moving through those stages. Because if you think about it, it's like a circle. Each time we stretch ourselves, we're going from probably an unconscious competence back to a little bit of unconscious incompetence, not quite knowing about that subject or didn't even know it existed, but it's in our sort of sphere of interest. And then consciously incompetent, oh, there's something, I didn't know anything about that. And then we practice it. We stretch ourselves and get consciously competent, a bit clunky. And then the more we practice makes permanent, as long as it's good practice makes good permanence. You become unconsciously competent. And our circle of expertise, our circle of just being good at what we do gets bigger, because we then really we're able to do more. And that's why I call it the mastery part. Because mastery is that conscious competence and unconscious competence coming together. It's knowing what you can do and doing what you know. So knowing what you know and doing what you know. Put those together and then just stretch it a little bit further. And that's when you really start to skill stack. And then you go a little bit further and you move that, you stretch yourself a little bit further, become a little bit more or consciously competent or incompetent. And then you start to learn about it and you get a little bit better, and then it becomes a whole circle or a wider and broader skill of unconscious competence. But the thing is, so that's just me giving you an idea of where and how we begin to learn, because then you're going to realize, oh, this is a bit difficult. Yeah, it is a bit difficult at the moment because you're in that conscious competence stage. You're having to get a bit clunky and think about it, but it will be and does get so much easier as it becomes an unconscious normal process. I just do it. So if you work backwards from my little story, from talking to you now, the podcast, thinking about it, not knowing about it, coming from that NLP, then the hypnosis, to Tony Robbins, to absolutely nothing. And that's where I want you to start, but not from absolutely nothing. You see, where do you start? Now, a little while ago, quite a long time ago, I did 2 longer podcasts, and they both came after each other. And it's #123 and #124. And they've got the weird title of The Wheel of Buckets and Pillars. And guess what? The other one is More of Those Wheels and Buckets. And basically, it's like the old process we used to do, and it's still really important. It's like the wheel of life, and you get a circle, and you divide it up into little segments. And each segment is an area of your life that you want to develop. And basically, the middle of that circle is 0. The outside, the end of the radius, is 100%. And you just mark off in each segment where you think you are. So it could be, well, in my social life, well, I'm not doing too good at that. I'm only about 60%. And you shade in the bottom 60% of that little segment. Where it could be, well, in my professional life, I'm doing pretty well. I'm near at 80%. And you go through all those sections of your life and you find out if it was a wheel and you put it on a car, it'll be pretty clunky. So you know then, well, I need to address those lower ones to make it more equal. And the same with the buckets. The buckets are 3 different types of buckets, and which one is the fullest, and maybe they leak and you have to keep topping them up. And obviously the pillars, well, we have lots of different pillars. Again, all about different sections and areas of your life, context. And how high is that pillar? Because if you want a pillar, rather, not pillow, and if you wanted a table or something to rest it on, you need them all pretty level. So again, you're looking at different areas of your life. But here's the thing. Sometimes we forget. So I'd love you to listen to those two podcasts. But if you just think of that area of your life, where do I want to start? Think of the context first. But the thing about it is, we look at each section, and some people would say, well, why don't you just start at the things that you're the worst at? We're really just going to concentrate on those. Well, that's a really good idea. But the thing is, that's bloody hard, isn't it? Because you're not so good at them. It's going to take more effort. You're probably more at that conscious incompetence. I don't really know much about this, or conscious competence where it's really clunky. So I know I've got to practice it and get better. But I don't want to leave the things which I'm pretty good at. So what I always tend to suggest is you do a little bit of the things that you're good at and a little bit more of the things that you're not quite so good at. You see, in that way, you always get that little bit of hit that I'm doing really good at here, and I'm just going to keep improving it. And what tends to happen is that confidence, the satisfaction, the self-esteem keeps growing and enables you, and it gives you the resources to work on the other stuff which is not quite so good. But here's the thing I think that a lot of people don't tell you. It's not a secret, but it's just a part that I see, that we're only working on that segment, or we're looking at the segments individually or separately. Now, they obviously make up a whole. And what is a whole? A whole is greater than the sum of the parts, isn't it? You've heard that saying. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So what I want to do is, because obviously the effect of having all those parts kicking at 100%, the whole would be absolutely magic. What I suggest is, and this is what we don't normally do, is say, well, first of all, before you obviously look at the segments of your life, which you want to improve upon, because this is where I'm going to invest my time. So I can mark them all off. I can do my percentages. I can see which bucket needs filling, or which bucket is emptying quicker, or which pillar is the lowest, which pillar is the strongest or the highest. So I know now where I need to apply my efforts, whether it's like at the 80-20% principle. 80% on the stuff that you need to really work a little bit harder on, 20% to keep that esteem and confidence going on the things you're better at. But not in isolation. And that's the thing. And I think there's a better way to start this. So once you've marked out and know where you've got to work and the areas of your life that you need to spend more time in, first of all, you've got to think of, well, what would it be like? What would it be like if I had this? Or 100% it'll never be. Because if you've got to think of, well, if it was 100%, it'd be absolutely bloody boring. But the thing is, you can never be 100% because you can always put another percent on. You can always be a little bit more because whatever you think you are, you're more than that. So you can always improve something. So this is just a gauge. But the thing is, if I was kicking it, if I was really getting it together on all areas of my life, what would that be like? I mean, here's the thing, and this is what I'd ask you to do. If you're not doing anything, just, if nothing needs your attention, not hypnosis or anything like that, but it may be easier to close your eyes doing this. So if it needs your attention, you can have a little listen, get an idea of the process, and then come back to it. Just remember where we are in this minute thing of the podcast. But if you can, do this with me now. If you thought to yourself, if I had all this stuff going just the way I want it, so every section of my life was really good. Yeah, I'm going to keep topping them all up, but I was really kicking it in every department of me. So the real me was coming out and really performing in that unconscious competence. I was just being able to do it, and I'm stretching myself and I'm loving to learn more and more and more. If I could see myself over there, what would I look like? How would I be? If I could picture myself. So imagine there's a you in front of you, maybe just below you, because it's nice to have this meta position. And if you're looking down on that you, who is kicking it? Who is performing at their best? They're really singing from their true voice. They are they're enjoying life so wonderfully well because they are succeeding in everything, and they've got even more goals, bigger goals. They're going to continue to learn and stretch themselves, but they are really just enjoying life the way it should be because they're now successful in all those areas, having a rich life in every term of rich. And as you see yourself over there just like that, what do you look like? How do you move? Look at your face. Does it have a nice smile on it? Look at the glint in your eyes. How are you breathing? What if you knew? Do they feel? How do they feel? How do they look like they feel? What is like their, it doesn't have to be an aura, but you get that connection. If you saw them coming in the room, that you over there coming to a room, how would that light up the room? Because it'd just be, you just know how confident they are. You'd know the level of their self-esteem. You just know they are there. They're satisfied, but they're satisfied to do more. They're giving that selfless service. They're getting the law of reciprocation, reciprocity. I can never say it, but that one, they're giving out, and suddenly that law just keeps piling more onto you. They're living in abundance and joy and love and having everything they want. Just notice them. And as you notice them, just imagine, if you could, floating into them just for a moment. If you float into that you in front of you from this little higher position, you float down into them and look through their eyes, which are now your eyes. What would the world look like? What would you hear listening through your ears, their ears? What are the type of things they'll be saying to themselves? What are you saying to yourself when you're just really kicking it? And what would it feel like? Feel all those wonderful positive emotions. What are the goals or the things you want to stretch yourself to at another level? What are your beliefs? What are the positive beliefs that are resonating and echoing inside you now? And when you get all of that, just for a moment, allow it to soak in so you can remember this. Remember it at the unconscious level. This is where I'm headed. This is where I'm going. This is the me that I'm going to be, and more. Allow yourself to float out of them, back into your body up here, and come back into the present. You're back in the room, back in wherever you are, and open your eyes. And you know how that feels now, because you can remember that, couldn't you? You could remember seeing yourself, because it's such an easy process, isn't it? You don't need a process from me to be able to do that, but you can just come back to here if you wanted to. But just remember, I want to see myself over there, just in front of me, below me, being that super successful me, that super confident me. Not overconfident, just competent and confident with just having a wonderful self-esteem about myself. Having all of those positive beliefs. You could do that and drop in and drop out. So you can always go and test it and come back. But you see, when you have all of that, maybe there's even a taste and a smell of success. And when you have all of that, with that, we're going to call that the wish fulfilled. And these will be the feelings, the senses of the wish fulfilled. I can now use that as my starting point, or starting and finishing point. That's where I'm going. So when I look at each of those segments in my life that I want to do, from there, I've got the why. Because again, that's what a lot of people don't tell you. Oh, they don't tell you the how. They just tell you what you should be doing. They don't tell you how, but you need a why first. Because once you get that why, the hows will come. Because you've got that motivation to find the hows. And I'm giving you a bit of both here. Now, the thing is, when you've got that feeling of the wish fulfilled, and in all senses, your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, the things that you feel, your olfactory and gustatory, smell and taste, when you have all those senses, and any other senses you've got as well, if you've got more that you realize, have them all, then that's the feeling that you might anchor. And you remember, we've done that process of anchoring, having any state you want. That's in the hypnosis section. So, the 90 seconds of hypnosis tracks. Why have I put hypnosis tracks on a separate website? Well, it's so simple, really. I wanted you to have them all in one place, so you can look through them all. You can find the particular one you want. I've even made them downloadable, so you can put them on any of your playing devices that you prefer. You don't need Wi-Fi, you don't need the iTunes or whatever. You can put them anywhere you like. You can even burn them onto disk if you want. Where do you get them? Well, there you go. I told you, it's paulcloughonline.com/podcast. If you're worried about your email address, please don't be, because they stay totally safe with me. I only use them to send you out that email and give you access. Simple as that. I send you a link, a special link, so you and only you can access those hypnosis tracks, because I want them just for you. And the other thing about this is you've taken responsibility. I don't want to make these open to everyone, just random. You have taken responsibility to listen and be part of this community of personal development. And I want to help you. I want to help you personally to get your dreams, your goals, and therefore I'm giving you these tools, these protocols, these paradigms, whatever you want to call them, but in deep hypnosis. So just enjoy. Have more fun than you can stand with hypnosis. Where'd you get that from? You know where it is. paulcloughonline.com/podcast. Find it there. So once you go out and be in yourself, the one that's achieving, you could anchor all your senses. So every time you begin to do that work on yourself in the present, in one of those sections, so maybe for me it'd be health, I'd remember the feeling. Remember that feeling and the senses of the wish fulfilled. This is my target. That will give me the motivation, give me the big why I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to look for what are the smaller steps I could do. Not the biggest, because I'm going to start with small baby steps. We've talked about this for years on this podcast, taking baby steps. But baby steps, holding on to that wish fulfilled. Because if you've got both, a baby step and that gives you the wish fulfilled, and you can hold on to the wish fulfilled, you're heading in the right direction. And it's not too big a step. Because when it's too big a step, that feeling begins to just disappear. Because it's too big, you get overwhelmed. So bring the steps into small baby steps. And when you understand those small baby steps, what's the thing you have to do? Schedule it. You have to commit. You have to commit to each thing and schedule it in your diary and do it. Write them out. I've got Jenny Journal. And you take your Jenny Journal and you might take at the back, here's a section I'm going to work on. This is how I'm going to do it. And this is my progress, how I'm going to check it. Because I'm going to measure what I do. I know where I'm starting. I know where I'm going. And I can check my process. Then I'm going to schedule it into my week. So maybe every Sunday I'm going to say, well, I can't work on every section, but I'm going to have a bloody good try. But here are the sections I'm definitely going to be working on to pull them up. And here's that section that I'm pretty good at that I want to get a little bit better too, to keep that motivation, to keep that good feeling. And because you're doing baby steps, you're getting success. And what does success breed? Success. So your self-esteem goes up. Your confidence goes up. Guess what happens then? You do even more because you get more lucky. And you just keep that process going over and over again. So, and always coming back to seeing yourself being your true self. Get all those senses and the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And keep doing that. You see, with each one, the only thing I would ever say about those baby steps or those sections, have this in mind. Now, that section you're working on has got to be good for you. That's obvious, isn't it? That's a given. But sometimes you have to think of, well, not sometimes, I want to ask you to consider, is it good for others? I'll give you an example. I want to get healthy. So, and I know I've got to work to keep my family going, but family is another section that I want to really work on. But I've got to really work hard at my job. So that's a lot of hours. And I want to get healthy. So I'm going to go to the gym early in the morning, and then I'm going to run in the evening. I don't see my kids, or I don't see my wife, I don't see my partner, I don't see my family. So that's no good for them. So you have to then not say, shelve that, you have to mitigate that. Work a way that you're going to get, because each section has got to be interlinked, isn't it? It's got to be good for you in all sections of your life, but also good for you and others in your life. And then as a last consideration, but also you could say the first, is it good for little old planet Earth? Because we need to consider our environment. And when we've got all those three, so it's good for me in all sections of my life, it's good for others, people around me, and it's good for all little old planet Earth. Now I'm going to do it. I'm going to commit. And every time I commit, I'm going to do it. I'm going to measure it. And that's what I want you to do. That's what, when I say I want you to do, I want you to consider doing, because I just know that it's going to work. Would that be important? Would that be important to you to be able to start achieving and getting better in every section of your life? I think it would, wouldn't it? Now, the thing is, it's not difficult because it's simple. But just because it's simple, and we know here on Personal Development Unplugged, we go from Uncle Albie Einstein, in simplicity there's genius, but not too simple, doesn't mean to say it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Because when you commit, you're going to have to put effort in. It's not a no pain, no gain, but it sometimes when we're not even feeling quite up to it, we're still going to go through it. It's a bit like going to the gym. There's not many people who love going to the gym. Yeah, sometimes some people get that thing where they just have to keep going. But a lot of the times, I just don't feel like it. I'm not really into it. You do it. You have to go through that. It's not pain. It's just being a little bit uncomfortable. But when you finish it, man, first of all, you feel better because you've achieved something. The other thing is, you know, you are growing. You're achieving things. You're getting better at it. You're getting healthier. You're getting fitter. You're getting the weight and shape you really want to be. And that will have its spin-offs in the way you eat and things like that. And that was just going to the gym. But I've made sure it's okay for others, the other sections of my life, other people in my life, and it's good for the planet. Now, that's where I'd like, or I think is a good place to start. And then we can go and do even more things on this. So we can look at how to do those sections maybe a little bit more deeper if you need that help. Would that be important? Would that be of interest? That's where I think I'll be going next. Maybe not exactly the next, it's like a second parter, because I think I want you to, or I want me to, because this is, again, me talking to me a lot, and you, just me and you talking to each other. These are things that I've got to do a little bit more of for myself. Look at my sections of my life. Look at everything. And then when I notice the difficulties I'm having, I'll be able to talk about those with you. And hopefully you're having the same difficulties. That's not the quite thing to say, Cluffy, but you know what I mean. And if you're having difficulties or issues trying to do some of this, let me know. Let me know by emailing me. I get my diction so much better. Email me at feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. As I say every time, that's my personal email through this podcast. It goes nowhere else, doesn't go to a list, doesn't go to anywhere other than me. And then you'll get your reply. And you'll get a reply, and then maybe it'll be something that we can then take into another episode. Brilliant stuff. I hope that's made a lot of sense. I always say this at the end because I have these notes I'm talking to you about. But sometimes I go off kilter with it because I'm just following that, like my unconscious competence. I listen to the words that I say sometimes. I don't think about the words I'm saying. And you can say, well, probably, Cluffy, we know that. But you know what I mean? Because it's a lot easier to speak from the heart and speak from that unconscious mind or my unconscious competence. Because if I'm going to try to read these notes, I become consciously competent and I'll fall over and I'll miss some important points, some intuition. And I think it's that intuition sometimes are the golden nuggets. So I wonder, even if you only did, like the wheel of life or the buckets or the pillars, and you looked at each section and you spent 80% on the ones that you really need to work on to bring them up and 20% on the things you're really good at, and you did that, seeing yourself over there, having that feeling of the wish fulfilled or the senses of the wish fulfilled, and you then got the real why from that, and you checked to make sure it's good for you, for others and the planet, and you started taking those baby steps, and because you commit to them, because you're putting them into your schedule. I wonder what things you're going to start doing that you don't know, but your unconscious mind might know. So you don't know that you know don't know. And I wonder what they'll lead to, where you become consciously aware of those things. And you start to practice even more as you stretch yourself, that skill stacking, until they become, well, just second nature to you. Unconscious competence, second nature, a skill that you do without even thinking. I wonder what those would be. Mine was Tony Robbins, which led me all the way here. And so many different adventures in between and different side shoots, which are like separate adventures. Working with clients, doing trainings, working online with people, all sorts of things. I wonder what yours will do and be and where it will lead you. And the good thing is, you don't know yet because your unconscious competence is there. But this is what I think anyway, when you start doing this, you have that intention. And that intention is to follow that feeling of the wish fulfilled. I'll say that again. And that intention is to follow the feeling of that wish fulfilled, the senses of the wish fulfilled. And because of that, your conscious mind and your unconscious mind become aligned to your success. And that law of reciprocation, where you put so much out there from abundance. And the thing about abundance is the more you take from it, the more you get back. It reciprocates more than you can. And when you do that, how lucky you're going to get. And what opportunities you're going to find that you didn't even know existed a few minutes ago, hours ago, months ago. But each time they come along, because you have that guiding sense, as it were, your unconscious mind is going to notice those opportunities for you. Now, isn't that exciting? I don't know what the opportunities are going to be. I just know they're going to be there. And all I have to do is practice being the best me. That's all you have to do. Practice being the best you. And what are you doing when you do that? You're taking the time to invest in you. And when you do that and you're feeling brilliant, everyone else around you gets the benefit of it. It's such a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win situation. There you go. Plenty to think about there, isn't there? You might have to listen to this again, or you might just have to share it to everyone you know, because then you can spur each other on. What would that be like if you shared this podcast to 2 or 3 people right now when you finish now? What would that be like? And how would you be with each other, knowing that their goals are good for them, but they're also good for you, and they're also good for this little old planet Earth of ours? Because God knows sometimes little old planet Earth needs all the help she can get, doesn't she? Anyway, have more fun. But yeah, have more fun than you can stand. Have more pleasure than you can stand. Have more richness than you could ever enjoy. And then share along the way. Until next time, my friend, this is Paul Clough, Personal Development Unplugged. See you real soon. Bye-bye now. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, where I, Paul Clough, try to deconstruct the things that have been made complicated, into easy steps so we can get such a big return on our investment and become who we're really destined to be, and we should be and could be, and sing from our own voice, follow our vision, and just get what is here for us in this world, and make this world a better place than it was when we first came into it. That would be awesome. While you're doing that, if you'd love to pay it forward, if you enjoyed this episode or you enjoy the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, please pay it forward by sharing it with as many people as you can. If you only did 2 a day, that would be great. Just 2 people, quick text, boom, that would be awesome. Just keep sharing it if you would, please. It really helps people listening. Obviously, more people listening, more people get this, we will make a difference. Also, have you subscribed so you get this podcast and every episode into your listening device of choice? If you haven't, do that. Go to the one where you listen to this now and you'll find a subscribe button. Do that. And also, would you put a review out onto that thing you're listening to? If you would, that would be awesome. That also helps this podcast get a little bit more popular and spreads the word. And remember, there are over 47 tracks of hypnosis. They're all free. They'll all accompany these podcasts, and they'll make a world of difference to you if you listen to them. I know they will. How do you get them? Just go to paulcloughonline.com/podcast sign up and you'll get access. You'll get an email access to all of these and more as they come available. Don't worry about your email address. It goes nowhere other than for me to give you that link. And maybe the odd email newsletter type thing once in a while, not very often, but nowhere else. Never shared, never given away. It is so personal and I really want to keep it for you. And lastly but not leastly, I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you. There's so many things you could be doing, listening to, and you listen to this. Thank you so much.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.